Hi, everyone. This is Dan Gingiss, and welcome to another episode of The Experience Maker. This is episode 11. I'm Dan Gingiss, customer experience speaker, currently virtual speaker, and experience coach. And I am so excited today to invite one of the most interesting men in the world. Energetic, funny, hilarious, great guy. He is the chief experience officer of, I hope I'm going to say this right, Officium Labs.
You nailed it. Well done, Dan.
Officium Labs, Mr. Nate Brown. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, Dan. Hello, all. I'm so excited to be with you today. I've been looking forward to this for a full 24 hours.
That's right. Nate was actually scheduled to join us in June and did me the favor of moving up today after our scheduled guest had to move. So we switched places. She'll be back on June 4th, and super happy to have Nate here. I should have included best dressed as one of the adjectives in introducing you.
I do think Justin Robbins and Blake Morgan might take offense to that. I think loudest dressed, maybe most eclectic dressed, but maybe not best dressed.
Oh, well, I think you're up there. I think you make the list anyway. So for the folks that don't know you, Nate, tell us a little bit about you. I know Officium Labs is new to your career, but tell us how you got there.
Sure. Yeah, I started in customer service. Just loved serving people. Was doing that inside of UL Underwriters Laboratories. Worked there for 12 years, and was able to have a bit of a come to Jesus moment in about 2014 when I picked up the Effortless Experience, and then realized I want to do more than just break fix support. I want to look at the end-to-end customer journey. I want to expand my capabilities operationally, and I want to serve customers more and larger than what I'm able to do now. And it brought me down this path of customer experience. And it's been so much fun. Dove right into some Gene Bliss and some Annette Fran's work, found your work very early with Winning at Social Care, and that was influential for me. So I've had a lot of good mentors along the path, and got to do some great CX work at UL. And then just in January, took the plunge into an incredible startup called Officium Labs. Officium means service in Latin, and have just had an absolute ball serving alongside Jerry Leisure and the team at that startup.
And tell us what the startup does.
Yeah, it's transformation consulting. We focus on video game and entertainment companies, but also anybody else that would want to be serviced that needs transformational consulting in the CX area. And we also have a marketplace, talent place for CX professionals that are looking for more gig-based work that we're building out as well. So we have a lot of exciting things going on.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I would be remiss if I did not mention another endeavor of yours called the CX Accelerator. And we're going to put up the website address there. It's www.cxaccelerator.com. You are the founder of that. And full disclosure, I'm an advisor, a volunteer advisor to CX Accelerator. But tell us about that and why you started it and how it's really, really grown and expanded.
Yeah, and thank you, Dan. I mean, you've been a big part of that. I mean, your advice has been so influential in the growth of that. And it's been a fun ride. You know, as a passion project started about only 2 years ago, if you can believe that. It feels like it's been 5 or 6 years. It's just a community for CX professionals that are looking to accelerate in their CX career. It's very organic. It's not monetized in any way. It's just a place for people to come together and really talk about the core issues of CX and help one another out. We've got a great job board. We have a great CX challenge of the week. We're actually about to launch a learning cohort capability that's going to be really exciting for those who want to come together in groups of 15 and go through a learning path together to really accelerate their CX capabilities. So we got some great stuff going on in there.
That's really cool. And I think that one of the things that I love about being part of the CX Accelerator community is sometimes, you know, the old saying, misery loves company. It's not exactly that it's misery, but it really does help sometimes to just understand that there's other people in similar roles that are facing similar challenges, that are having the same problem convincing management that customer experience is important, or they're having the same issues finding budget or whatever it is. And it's so helpful to just be among your people and kind of talk about the common successes and challenges that we all have.
I think you're nailing it, Dan. I mean, it's funny because the nature of the work that we do, it's helping people to have better and easier lives. And we're people generally. Like, we love serving others. And and being out there, understanding the hearts and minds of the people that we're helping. But yet, inside of our own companies, it can be incredibly lonely to do customer experience work because we're trying to convince, we're trying to gain allies to the work of CX, but it's generally peripheral to most senior leaders in the company. So we're always having to, in a way, kind of fight for the right to do the work. And it can be very challenging and very frustrating. So it's been incredibly motivating for me to have others that are going through the same challenges and that we can edify and support one another along the path.
So, Nate, if customer experience is as critical as we all know it is, and let's face it, without customers, businesses aren't businesses. We don't have a company if we don't have customers. Why do you think that still in 2020, what you just said, which I agree with, customer experience is peripheral to top executives?
Yeah, I mean it's a fluffy art in a lot of ways. I mean, we're talking about, oh, we got to make the customer experience better. And that's so easy to roll off the tongue of any executive. In fact, many of the CEOs that I've been talking to lately, they want their legacy to be in the area of customer experience. But then you poke into that. Okay, well, what do you mean? They have no idea what customer experience management is or what the actual best practices and the supporting context around great customer experiences are. So it's funny because the work, everybody thinks they know what it is. And it's really easy to say and to give lip service to. But then when you get into the hard work of developing a strong voice of customer engine and the investment that requires, the hard work that requires to develop those personas and those listening paths and those journey maps, and then getting into the area where you're actually unifying the organization around a language for change management, this customer centric, so that people can work together and take the voice of customer insights and make change happen together cross-functionally, which is generally one of the biggest black eyes that organizations have, is cross-functional change management. If we look at digital transformation, if we look at cultural transformation, these things have anywhere between an 85% to a 95% average failure rate. So CX is in that bucket of huge culture change and huge enterprise level change. So we have to be darn good and very compelling at this work to be successful.
Well, and the irony of it is that I think the reason for that failure, it generally is because companies are set up in such a siloed fashion.
Oh, yeah.
And yet that's also, the irony is that's also the cause of poor experiences for customers, is that when your company is siloed, your experience is siloed. And it's interesting. I was talking with somebody the other day, and I know you and I are alike in this way, Nate, that wherever we go, we experience things as a customer, and not just as ourselves, but just as a customer might experience it. And we sort of think about it that way. And it becomes so obvious when you're looking for it to examine the journey at a company, the experience at a company, and to say, oh yeah, well, let's see, that's where the sales team handed it off to the account management team, because you can see they just dropped the ball right here, and I can't even get a hold of my salesperson anymore, and whatever. And it's remarkable that it's not that hard to see unless you're on the other side of the fence, at working at the company in your own silo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny, Dan. And I mean, we all want to be comfortable. We all want to be good at a thing, and we want to know what that little thing is. So if you apply that human instinct to the way that we operate inside of our companies, we almost create our own blind spots. I don't want to have to think about what everybody else is doing. Just give me my little piece of the pie that I can focus on. I'm going to make sure that's good, and gosh darn the rest of you. In fact, if the rest of you aren't that good, it actually puts me up on a little bit of a pedestal, and that makes me even more comfortable.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to jump for a moment because we are broadcasting live, of course, on LinkedIn, which means we're getting comments from people, and a couple of comments about the snazzy outfit from Nate Brown, according to Chris Strub. And then Andrew Gilliam, however, says that he thinks that you have toned down your wardrobe since you've become a fancy chief experience officer.
Wow, Andrew, that hurts, man.
I don't think it's funny. Is I guess if you know Nate, this is pretty toned down from him, and yet that is a spectacular hat and a spectacular jacket that you're wearing that not everybody could pull off.
Dan, this is a tough one for me. I I started out of the gate, as I started speaking in 2016 with the novelty suit thing. And that became unsustainable very quickly. Novelty suits being like really silly, outlandish suits. And already about a third of our closet for me and my wife is novelty suit. And so my wife's kind of like, when does this end? Because this is not a sustainable habit that you've developed. And I did get some feedback from a couple people that I really respect of, hey man, I think that might be not quite the brand that you're seeking. And so I've kind of been going through this process the last year of what is my personal brand going to be, and I haven't really landed on anything yet. So I don't know.
Well, it's really interesting. I've been going through a similar process because when I released my first speakers reel last year.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I got great feedback on it. Thank you. But what's funny is it was several, and it just happens to be it was like 3 women. They were all women that commented to me about the jackets that I was wearing on stage. And in particular, there's this one jacket that I wore a lot because it was my favorite jacket. That was a sort of a light tan jacket, and they basically said, your whole face gets washed out when you're wearing a light tan color jacket. You should wear something darker. And so I just recently bought a number of new jackets.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I've only been able to wear one of them because I've been stuck at home since then. But I've actually 2, because I bought one that I wore that was not quite as blue as your blue, but it's a bright blue for me. And then I was actually in Las Vegas my last speech before the shutdown, and I forgot a jacket altogether. So I had to go to one of those expensive stores in the hotel and pick out a fancy schmancy jacket that was way more than I'd ever want to spend, but it was pretty cool. So I'm working on that same thing. And I think it's really interesting because you do become known for your looks in some way. Another comment on LinkedIn, both Robin Stevens and Chris Strub are applauding my son, Mark Gingiss, for the slick production work. So good job, Mark. Thank you. He's always the behind the scenes man. And then both Andrew and Dennis Wakabayashi, who's joined us, have both put up lots of applause and fire emojis for CX Accelerator. So more people commending you for that. I'm going to put in the comments here a link to it so that if anybody is on this and is not already part of CX Accelerator, please go check it out. I think one of the best parts about it is a Slack group that you can join and connect with people. We have channels that are specifically for LinkedIn introductions. We have channels for people to share content that they've created, and not only for other people to consume, but for them to share as well, which is really nice. We have places where you can ask questions if you're having an issue. Nate's been known to throw out a challenge every week for people to try something new. So it's a very active, fun community to be a part of.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you to Andrew and Dennis. Both have been incredible in helping to build that up. So thank you both.
Yeah, they're good folks. So, okay, let's shift to the elephant that is in both of our rooms right now, even though we are in different rooms, and that is the stay-at-home order and the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on. Broadly speaking, how do you think this affects customer experience generally?
Yeah, that is definitely the elephant in the room. So I've got a dear friend, Phil Herdman. So I think we're under attack from a mental health perspective, all of us. And if we get into customer experience work deeply, it all comes down to psychology. It's why people do the things that they do. I mean, Mary Drummond is brilliant in this area, talking about the motivators behind why we make decisions. So people's minds right now are shifting to where it used to be, what's going to make me happy? What's going to make me feel good? Now, those motivating decisions have shifted to what's going to make me safe. And I mean, it's a completely different set of motivators that are driving experiential decisions. So it's going to be really fascinating for us as experienced professionals to try and create triggers and motivators that cause people to come to our brand to feel safe, to feel consistent, to feel at peace. Shep Hyken has a lot of brilliant authorship around creating good, consistent experiences. You don't have to blow anybody's mind. What you do is create a good, consistent experience, and that develops a level of comfort and trust. And trust is a big word right now. That's not going to go away anytime soon. In fact, we're just going to see more and more that the brands that are creating really compelling, trustworthy experiences that are helping people to feel safe and comfortable, those are the brands that are going to excel.
I totally agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. I've actually been using the word comfortable along with calm
Yeah,
as the two C's right now, because I think we're all looking for some level of calm that's hard to find. We're not getting it from the media. We're not getting it from the
no,
government.
we're not.
So we're looking to our friends and family, but unfortunately, they're just as uncalm as we are.
Yeah,
And so, where else do you look? You look to companies that you do business with that you know are have treated you well in the past and have your best interests in mind. And I think the companies that are coming out and showing this calm and confidence and helping people through are the ones that are really going to succeed here. And to me, it's the interesting thing in this environment from a CX perspective is I don't think I remember a time where people have craved more than now human interaction,
oh my
because
God.
we can't have it, right? We can't have it but on a screen. And customer experience in my mind is all about the human interaction. Yeah, you've got the user experience and digital and stuff like that, but ultimately the brands that we love, we tend to love because we have some sort of human connection with them. And I think that's where the companies that can figure that part out with both their customers and their employees, frankly, the human aspect of it, I think are the ones that are going to win. What do you think?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you said that so brilliantly. I mean, we are not made to be in isolation, Dan. We're just not created for it. I mean, us as human beings, we seek community, we seek family units. And there's a lot of isolated people right now. And I mean, it's funny to me because the number one objective that I had in 2019 in my role as a practitioner, as a CX professional, was to develop community inside of the brand that I was serving, to develop a community of customers. And it was incredibly difficult work to do that. But I was convicted the entire year. This is where we need to focus our efforts. This is going to have the biggest, most meaningful return for us in the long run, is bringing our customers together in meaningful ways around the products and services that we have. And by darn, I wish that I had done a better job, because that community would be so critical right now, so instrumental in terms of providing light and providing that source of comfort for that set of customers. And the brands that have done this, that have foreseen this, and that have created a community mechanism around their compelling brand, I mean, they're just surging right now. It's amazing the power of community.
Absolutely. And it's like I think of it, I think of that old saying, misery loves company.
Yeah,
And it isn't necessarily that it's all about misery. And we mentioned this with CX Accelerator too, but it's not necessarily that it's all about misery right now, although in a lot of ways it is we're all sort of feeling the same stuckness.
yeah,
And what we want is just to talk to somebody about it who's feeling the same thing.
yeah,
Um, so speaking of community, I'm gonna pivot for a moment, take this community piece and go in a completely different direction.
yeah.
Recently, earlier this year, we were at a conference together, Customer Contact Week, and speaking of community, we got to go out afterwards in the evening and go to a Top Golf and hang out together and eat and drink.
We did.
And it was pretty interesting. What we learned that day is number one, I have a penchant for embarrassing myself in anything having to do with golf. But the other thing is that we learned that I think it should be always one of your two truths and a lies, is that you actually have some serious golf game. Tell us about it.
I grew up playing golf. Ever since I was 11, I had a golf club in my hand, and I just love being out on the golf course. I had my, whereas most high school kids were out there, I don't know what are the high school kids do? Roller skate, play hockey in the road. I don't know. I was out playing golf with my buddies, and we just had a great community around that. Charlie Cozell, Steve Muncher, Roberto Castro. You could find us any day after school going out and playing 9 holes and just having a ball together. And so, I mean, that was my community. I love the sport of golf, but what it provided for me was a safe place where I had consistent friends that I cared about. I had a social structure. And so, naturally, when it was time to go to college, what do you think I did? I tried to find myself a golf scholarship. And so I was offered a 2/3 scholarship to Belmont in Tennessee, and I turned it down to go to Toccoa Falls College and tried to join their soccer team, which was a weird turn of events. And they cut me from the soccer team by telling me, "Did you know we just started a golf team?" So
That's great. That's awesome.
I got to be the founding member of the Tacoma Falls College golf team, and they gave me a 15 passenger van to drive around to the different tournaments, and I was the captain, and it was a ball.
That's awesome, Nate. And I will say that in that Top Golf outing, I think there were six of us, and if you added up the five scores of the rest of us, and in Top Golf you want a high score, not a low score. I think if you added up the five scores of the rest of us, we maybe got to about 30% of what Nate's score was. So it was pretty fun. But tell us about, from your perspective, what are the companies that really understand CX and are showing it every day, both pre-COVID-19 and also right now as we're experiencing it?
Yeah, so I mean, there's kind of an interesting thing going on in the marketing world where companies that are just kind of on autopilot with their marketing strategies, and they're just marketing exactly the way they did before the pandemic. They're being labeled as being tone deaf, which is really true. I mean, it's an awakening of, wow, this was a really brand centric marketing strategy. The fact that their entire audience has changed, the entire worldwide audience has changed, and yet their message to that audience has not changed. So it seems like the brands that are doing the best right now are those that are able to shift really quickly, which requires a really agile organization to be able to pivot all the momentum that you've got with your marketing strategy, understand now the reality of the people that are out there, and shift it. So I mean, there's some organizations that have done that well and that are shifting that marketing message. I think Disney is one. Just today tonight they're doing like a karaoke thing with all these celebrities in their homes, just to make kids happy and excited. And they're advertising, hey, this is a great fun thing for your kids to be able to do tonight, which is exactly what parents want right now. They don't want to know what movie you have coming out in the fall. They want to know, how can I help my kids to be happy tonight and put a smile on my kid's face? So Disney is one that understands that and has shifted the messaging significantly.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, and I think related to that, there's a number of companies that are giving away free content,
Yeah.
and understanding that people are stuck at home, and so what are they going to be doing? And this whole stay-at-home economy is really working. To me, and I'm just interested if you notice this as well where you're at. To me, one of the things that's been a very interesting industry to watch is the grocery store industry, because they have had such a massive change. And all of a sudden, you have people who don't want to go to the grocery store, but who want to order it out for pickup or for delivery. And one of the things that I've seen is that it seems like a number of grocery brands, although obviously you have to give them some sympathy and empathy that they're going through a tough time, but they've been very slow to sort of figure out the new operational reality, which is, hey, we don't need so many people, bagging groceries at the end of the checkout line because nobody's checking out. What we need is people bagging groceries to bring out to people's cars. And then also on the digital aspect of it, I mean, I've checked on at least 3 different grocery chains and had a lot of problem doing something as simple as finding a time
Wow.
that I can pick up, right? It's like, well, one grocery chain, I don't like to call out brands that are screwing it up, but one grocery chain gave me, said there was nothing available today or tomorrow. Well, okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. But how about the next day or the next day or a week from now? Or like, even if I have to wait 2 weeks, fine, I'll place the order now. But when you tell me there's nothing today or tomorrow and that's it, and I'm stuck,
Wow.
just like in good times, I have no choice but to go to another chain, to go to your competitor, right?
Wow.
So how do we take what we know about CX and UX, and even in a time where everybody's sort of up in arms and business is changing every day, it seems to me that those same concepts apply right now, and maybe even more acutely.
Yeah. I mean, I really think this is why the focus on the frontline staff is so critical. You're going to have these essential workers, these frontline staff, who are either in the mentality of, I'm going to survive this day, I'm going to get through it, I'm going to leave, or they're going to come in and be like, I am going to give this my absolute all. I'm going to serve the people the very best that I can today. And I mean, we only have so much energy as a person. There's only so much emotional bandwidth that we can squeeze in there. And it gets zapped very quickly when you're getting yelled at by angry customers, which is happening at every grocery store right now. I mean, my wife told me a story from Publix recently where she couldn't get an item that she needed, and somehow she was able to ask somebody from the staff. And not only were they incredibly kind and polite, but they complimented my wife and said,
Yeah.
and I mean, that just shows you a little glimpse into the mind of that worker who is going through hell right now. And I mean, so yeah, I mean, could they maybe get information about when that item is coming? When you ask, they might be able to have access to it. The real question is, do they even care enough to go find that information? Uh,
Yeah.
we can create the best supporting processes that we can as a CX leader, but until our people have the emotional bandwidth to actually carry out a good experience, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, and I mean the human element, as we've been saying, it's so critical. And I would say also, and kudos to your wife, is that, you know, we as consumers have to remember that when we are interacting with people, that they
Yeah,
are doing the best that they can. I mean, I have picked up from my grocery store a few times, and I make sure that I tip the person really nicely,
really
right?
well. Yeah,
Whoever tipped for groceries, but that's what you do now
yeah,
because you know that person has had a heck of a day. And I think it is important that as consumers we remember the human element, that everybody is having a tough time working. I think as business owners and companies, we have to remember that. The same thing of our employees. I just wrote a blog on my site, dangingiss.com, about managing work from home employees. And,
mm,
you know, the fact that we have to be more understanding that children and pets and other things are going to run into jump in the room in the middle of a Zoom meeting, and that's
yep,
okay because that's the reality today. And people might not be dressed as formally as they might be for work because they're in a t-shirt and shorts, or their pajama bottoms, which we can't see, right? Because this is our new reality.
yep,
And I think that understanding, and to me the key is that at the end of the day, you said it earlier, at the end of the day, as humans, we're focused on safety and health, and that is true about absolutely everyone.
yeah,
And so your employees right now, more so than their job, they're focused on the safety and the health of their families. The
yep,
person who is filling your groceries, more important than filling your groceries, the safety and health of their families, right? and
absolutely.
and that makes sense because that's exactly, Nate, what you and I are concerned about right now, is the safety and health of our families. And
Yep.
I think the more as consumers that we recognize that, from the people that are trying to work, you know, the better we're going to be. So Nate, we're actually a little bit over time. I want to make sure people can get a hold of you. We're going to put up that website again for CX Accelerator. This is
Cool.
a great way to connect with Nate. It's www.cxaccelerator.com. But Nate, how do people contact you personally as well, or on the socials?
Yeah, go out to fishiumlabs.io, and we could work together that way. Would love to make that happen. And then my Twitter handle is at customer is first. So would love to
Great Twitter handle.
receive a tweet from you as well. And yeah, I tend to be more places than people would like me to be. You're gonna have to find me, whether you want to or not.
That's awesome. No, Nate Brown is a fairly easy guy to find, I think, if you just look carefully. So thank you so much, Nate, for being on the Experience Maker Show. You are truly, as I said in one of my tweets, you are truly emblematic of the Experience Maker name, because you are doing it every day, both at your company at Officium Labs, at your last company, UL, and also at the CX Accelerator. So congrats on all the success. I can't wait to see you again. Maybe we'll go bowling or something instead of golfing. But
You're well done at that, Dan.
but I look forward to seeing you again. Next week, we are going to have a good friend of mine, and actually one of my clients right now, the managing director of Banco Dental, Chuck Cohen. And he's going to talk to us about another industry that has really been upended on COVID-19, but what his company is doing to prepare for after we get through it. So it should be really interesting conversation. Join us next week. It's every Thursday, 4 o'clock Eastern, here on LinkedIn Live. This is the Experience Maker. I'm Dan Gingiss. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next week.